Welcome to Ever Evolving Woman, the podcast where we explore the truth, the transitions, and the triumphs of life with women in that middle stage of life. In today's episode, we're taking a look back at an era many of us know all too well, the age of dieting. Remember when skinny wasn't just a look, but a lifestyle goal? When every magazine cover promised a new secret to shedding pounds, and we chased every diet trend, hoping it would finally be the one. From grapefruit cleanses to fat free everything, we were conditioned to believe our worth was tied to the size of our jeans. But what did that constant pursuit actually cost us? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually? And more importantly, how do we shift from chasing skinny now to choosing healthy vitality and self love? So today we'll unpack these messages, we'll reflect on how they shaped us, and we'll hear from Dr. Rachel Iverson Schaefer. She has a doctorate in health science and is a registered dietitian. Hi, ladies. So happy to have you join us again on the Ever Evolving Woman podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode today, and let's dive right into it. Welcome, Rachel, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Rachel, from your perspective, how did the diet culture affect the way women from our generation related to food and to their bodies?
Yeah, so it gets kind of tough. I focus on menopause nutrition, so I kind of see a lot of women whose kids have kind of flown the coop per se, and they finally have time to focus on their own health. They have time to look at recipes. They have time to go to the gym. So it's kind of time to knuckle down, and they want to just get on track. So a lot of times when we get started talking, the first question I ask is, have you dieted in the past? And 95% of the time, the answer is yes. And then I ask the question, what age did you start dieting? And usually it's middle school or high school, sometimes a little bit after college. And then I ask, okay, usually when you're coming to see a registered dietitian, there's a reason. And so I'll ask, well, how long in your life have you been in dieting mode? And most of them will say the entire time. They've been very conscious of calories, very conscious of fat content, very conscious of protein intake. So it's very hard because even right now, dieting is all about deprivation. It's about reducing calories, reducing intake of certain nutrients. It's about taking things away. And when we think about sustainable health, taking things away and focusing on the negative honestly never really works for anyone long term. It may work in the short term. People might start a diet and they might have success for 2, 3 months, even 2, 3 years. But when your focus is always restriction, it makes you go a little bit crazy. So you start to get a lot of that body dysmorphia. And then the other thing is, a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm addicted to sugar, or oh, I'm addicted to a certain food. I can't have it in my house. And one thing that's really interesting about that is when we have a food that feels like that, oftentimes it's because we've put it on a pedestal in our minds. Um, your body is really, we were developed to survive. And for the vast majority of the time humans have been on Earth, there hasn't necessarily been enough food or it's been very difficult to find food. And so a lot of our biology is centered around saving fat, around storing, and around finding high value resources. So our brains are naturally very risk averse. They see negatives everywhere. They like to keep us safe. But every now and then, when there's a high value resource available, our brains kind of hit us with a nice bit of dopamine. And that little rush helps us kind of get over that risk aversion and then get that high value thing that will help keep us alive. Well, you and I, for the most part, don't have to deal with that kind of deprivation problem. We have access to food, we have access to vast quantities of calories most of the
Yeah,
time that are very delicious.
very true.
Yeah. And then what happens is when I say, like, normally I might have a piece of cake every now and then, something like that. But when I say, you know what, I need to lose weight, I'm going to stop eating all baked goods, no pastries, no cake, no cupcakes. none of that. I start to think about it. My brain knows I like those. It really does. And every time I see them and I turn away and the coworkers bring donuts in and I don't turn into the break room, I just walk around it. And every time I say no and no and no, my brain's learning that that's a scarce resource. And so after a few months of me staying away from it, all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? I've been good. I've been really good for a while, and I'm reaching for that cupcake at a birthday party or that slice of cake, and all of a sudden my brain's like, oh my gosh, she's going for this scarce thing. She's going for the high value resource. I'm gonna hit her with a flood of dopamine so she can go get that. And it's not actually the sugar, but it's like the choosing of the sugar that causes that reaction. And all of a sudden I'm flooded with dopamine, and I already like cake, obviously. And when I'm eating it, it's suddenly the best cake I've ever had. And then, you kind of black out for a little bit. You come to like 4 slices later, there's frosting on your face, and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, cake has always been the problem. I obviously can't control myself. But you really set yourself up for failure with the restriction. So that's the most common mentality I see.
So, do you then suggest? That's funny because I just tried to give up sugar, and that's exactly what just happened to me.
No.
Um, so do you suggest that you just have a little bit of sugar every day, or try to without limit? How do you do? I'm
Yeah.
terrible at limiting. It's like
We all
that.
are.
Yeah, that's an issue.
That's why things like gambling are an addiction, because it's exciting to choose that. But here's the thing is when you know don't associate health with skinniness, right? Your health is associated with your blood lipid panel, with how much iron is in your blood, with if you're able to move well, if with your range of motion, with your brain health. When you're associating health with those things, you're much more focused on the quality of the nutrition that you're putting in your body. The American Cancer Society recommends 9 servings of produce a day to reduce risk of cancer. That's a lot of fruits and veggies. You should be getting, usually, most people, 3 to 4 servings of grains a day, 3 to 4 servings of protein, 2 to 3 servings of a dairy or a fortified dairy substitute. You should be getting some healthy fats. If you are focused on trying to fit in like 30 grams of protein at a meal and 25 grams of fiber in a day and 9 servings of fruits and veggies in a day, there's not often a lot of like leftover room where we're left like sitting and wanting and craving. And there are things we still want. So the question I always ask is, well, what is satisfying to you? So I'll ask you this, Rhonda. Um, do you feel satisfied from just the flavor of something? Do you feel satisfied from the feeling of being full, like you've had a lot of something you really love? Do you feel satisfied for having something that's like a little just extra special, a dessert you might not normally get for yourself? Or do you feel satisfied by having it as part of your routine and you know it's coming? Which of those feelings is the feeling that makes you feel the best when you're going for something a little bit more fun to eat?
That's an interesting question, and for me, it's having it be routine and knowing
Yeah.
that it's coming on a regular basis, because otherwise, I think I have a tendency to go overboard
Hmm.
and binge.
Yeah,
Um, and one chocolate bar is good, and two chocolate bars is better, which is
absolutely.
not true.
Well, it can be. We like what we like, and
Yeah.
so my satisfaction comes from feeling full. And I think that's from years of extreme dieting when I was younger, because then you'd have those binge cycles and those binges would feel so good. So like when I'm working with someone who's like me, who really kind of likes that feeling of just being slightly over full, we can work with that. You have a nice big salad filled with a lot of veggies, a lot of fiber, a decent amount of protein. And at the end, we order a cake is on my mood, I guess. Giant slice of cake and ice cream, and you just have as much of it as you really want. You've filled up mainly on a bunch of high volume, nutrient dense foods. And then you give yourself the permission to go after that cake or whatever it is. Now, that's not something I personally need every day. I don't need the routine of it. So that would be like what feels the best to me is when I'm really craving something, I set myself up in a place where I won't feel icky after kind of going for it. For you, Rhonda, it's about making it part of your routine. So what I'd recommend is it usually chocolate for you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. A lot of
There's,
people.
yeah, there's nothing else.
Chocolate's the best. And you like it usually in the evening after dinner or kind of your little
Um,
snack
and
anytime?
no, actually more after lunch.
Okay.
More, I
Okay.
wonder if there's a dip in my energy level and that chocolate just makes me feel,
That's the time of the
yeah,
afternoon it drags, so that makes sense.
yeah.
So what I would recommend if I was working with you as a patient is I'd say, okay, so I want you to buy the best chocolate that you can buy. The chocolate that you're like, ooh, that's a little spendy. Maybe I buy the other kind most of the time. And then I want you to think about it. I like to call this the three P's of snacking. So this is something I came up with, so don't steal, but everyone can use it. So the three P's of snacking are protein, produce, and pizzazz. So when you put together a decadent snack, you want a little source of protein. So maybe you add a baby bell or some almonds to a plate. Then you want a little source of produce, maybe a couple raspberries, maybe some grapes, maybe some strawberries, and then you have that chocolate with it. Then you're getting a multitude of experiences when you're eating it. You're getting different nutrients, and it feels more of a balanced snack. It doesn't quite feel so like a lot of people tend to feel guilty when eating those decadent things. And if
Mhm.
you're planning it as part of like a well-rounded snack, emotionally, usually you feel a lot calmer doing it. And also, that protein's going to hit you. It's going to slow down how fast that sugar's absorbed, that fiber's going to hit you. And your stomach has so many different cells that sense what nutrients are inside it so you can secrete the right acids and the right amount of bile. Your body knows when you have fiber and protein, and then your hypothalamus is able to send out a little bit more fullness hormone when you're mixing those macronutrients and that fiber together. So then it's just going to be a little bit more satisfying overall.
Talk to me about, and maybe this is a whole nother podcast, so please say if it is, but what about emotional eating? Is there anything that
Mhm.
you recommend to stop the emotional eating that is, you can give it to us short and
Yeah.
sweet, or do we need to do another podcast?
I think I can do it kind of short. So you need to sit with it to understand why it's happening. So, what I recommend is next time you feel like you need an emotional binge is don't try to stop yourself, just let it happen, but be really present during it. Don't like binge on something while you're watching a show. Don't binge on something while you're talking on the phone. You are there and the food is there and you have the sensory experience of eating it. And then afterwards, I want you to journal about it. What was satisfying? Why did it help or not help? Did it actually help? And if you can focus on that and kind of pay attention to, okay, what are the aspects of this that I need or like? You can kind of work those into your regular routine so it doesn't become this huge emotional heavy point where you feel so icky afterwards because you really overdid it. You can just pull those aspects out of it that are the aspects that are serving you and then figure out how to fit it into a regular diet. A lot of people think when they talk to a dietitian, we're going to, again, take so many things away, tell them eat less calories. I became a dietitian because I wanted people to live longer so they could eat more fun food.
I like that.
Yeah.
Um, a question that I have is, I am at that middle stage of life. And it feels like it used to be very easy to lose weight.
Mm.
It's not so easy now. Um, is it realistic to feel like I can eat healthy, still have a few snacks, and lose a few pounds if I need to based on where my doctor says I'm at?
It kind of depends. It depends on your genetics and it depends on how much you've dieted in the past. If you've spent your entire life yo-yo dieting, and you've lost and gained more than 20 pounds up and down, it's a lot harder for you to lose weight. And the thing is, our bodies are naturally going to retain a little bit more body fat as we age, as we kind of hit that menopause phase and we get through it and perimenopause. But the thing is, our bodies are meant to do that. You're protecting yourself from chronic wasting disease, which is the things that we die of. So, chronic wasting disease like heart failure or you're going through cancer, those things kind of decimate the body fat stores. So, individuals who have a little bit more tend to live a little bit longer. A lot more, you get your joint problems, you get everything else. Um, so honestly, that's so individual. It's hard to say. But I would say you're generally more mentally healthy and you have better aging when you're getting that consistent protein intake, when you're getting all of your micronutrients, when you're getting even amounts of carbohydrate. And the number one thing for women who want to lose weight, who are kind of at that middle stage, is putting on muscle mass. We have to strength train, and it's very hard to build muscle if you are not eating well. So you have to eat. But over time, that'll bump your metabolism up, and that should help a little bit.
Okay, that's super interesting to hear. Just even I'll share that I have been doing weightlifting and just had a DEXA scan, and
Ooh,
my bone mass has improved.
we love that.
So yeah, so I got a nice note from my doctor that said, "Keep up the weightlifting, good job."
Heck
Those are
yeah.
always nice notes to get from your doctor. So
Yeah. And that's what you want to think about, you know? Do you want to fit in one size smaller of jeans, or do you want to be out in your yard doing your yard work when you're 85?
yeah. Well, I don't like yard work, so that's out. But I
Okay, well,
do want to play with my grandkids, so
there
there's
you
that.
go. Maybe go hiking,
Yes, yes,
anything
and I
like
want to
that.
keep up with them. So that's my incentive, not the
Mm-hmm.
yard work, but that. Um, well, at the end of everything, of all of these podcasts, I've been asking if you could give us 3 tips that you would recommend for women in the middle stage of life to to live a healthier life. Can you give us 3? What would be your top 3 tips, Rachel?
Yeah, I would say the first one is to ignore all the fad diets about intermittent fasting. In order to maintain and build muscle mass, especially for women, we need to have protein in the morning, afternoon, and evening. So that's number one for me. Um, I worked on research studies in my master's degree that we found consistently not only more muscle mass, but higher quality fibers and more strength associated with those fibers. So protein, 25 to 30 grams, morning, afternoon, evening. Next is to bump your fiber up to at least 25 grams a day, if not 35. Your fiber comes from sources like fruits, veggies, and whole grains, and all of those sources are important. So we don't just cut out carbohydrates, we don't cut out fruit because they have too much sugar. We focus on getting that fiber content to support our gut microbiome, to stay regular, and to reduce risk of cancers overall and heart disease. Has a huge impact on cholesterol levels and on likelihood of developing GI cancers, which are on the rise right now. And the third thing would be never to focus on restriction. Always focus on inclusion. What do I need to have to keep myself healthy? What nutrients do I need on my plate? Do I have all my food groups? If I don't, do I have maybe a few more than I normally would? And to think about it like in a 5-year time frame. If you're thinking about an exercise program or a goal, I want you to think, could I include that in my life for the next 5 years? And if not, it's probably not a great goal. But if yes, then it sounds like a good thing to implement in your routine. And as you continue to do that, you'll get a feel for the exercise programs and the types of eating that really support you. And that's what you need to focus on because if I even only add 1 servings of veggies a day, um, I'm getting 365 more servings of veggies a year. That could be the difference between me developing GI cancer or not. So no healthy change is too small and focus on just including a few more.
Nice. Rachel, thank you so much for talking to us today about the importance of our health and giving us tips. And this has been so interesting. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to us and love that you work with women who are in that middle stage of life, the perimenopause, the menopause, because I do think we have some different nutritional needs
Hmm.
and just the way we have been raised. So this is wonderful information. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, if you would like to connect with Rachel, you can find her on Instagram at Dr. Rachel underscore nutrition, and I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay,
So thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate you being here today.
bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have a friend who might enjoy it, please share it with them. You can also connect with us on social media at ever.evolving.woman. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This podcast is a space for us to learn from one another and explore topics that we don't always talk about openly. If there's a subject you'd like to hear covered, or if you have a topic you'd like to be a guest on the podcast to discuss, please let us know, and I'll do my best to make it happen. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope your day is filled with God's blessings.